just reviewing Control Center. We're reviewing it from your perspective, and you are going to have pretty specific questions, I imagine. But here we go.
Yeah, so this is on a team scrim,
Yep.
and the other two maps are not important because they were very trolly
Sure.
for our group. But this one we tend to take serious, and
Sure.
that's really what I want to look. I want like obviously my perspective, but
Okay, but you sort of
if it's
want
possible to look like at the overall, because I'm the
the
IGL of the team,
you're calling. Okay.
so I want to like gain a better perspective on how I should be calling move like to kite, to engage,
Okay.
things like that.
Sure, that makes sense. We can keep that in mind. It may cause me to do a little bit of double view on some of this, but that's fine. So here you go. You're doing this. Okay. You're out here. You're out first here. So you being out first here does what exactly for you?
It gets basically an immediate scout for us, and I have the like ability to claim the zone fast. And
Yeah.
then like my team is right behind me, so
Yeah.
we're able to
Yeah, I'm
immediately
not worried about
stack.
you being too far ahead and you getting in trouble. It's just what are we getting here versus being a couple steps behind. We can still do the DM. But yep, that's fine with me. Okay. Okay. Uh-huh. Okay. So now you're going to go ahead and do this. You've let your Reinhardt in theory, so that sort of what we get into and why I'm calling it out. Let's go ahead back here is you see, oh, that's not what I want. You see how if we really wanted to get nitpicky, you potentially got this early scouting off, but this first half of your DM was basically used to protect yourself and your team where Reinhardt's shield would have worked, right?
Hmm.
And the reason that that potentially matters is your Reinhardt is about to go brawl, and you would prefer to use this first half of your DM over him while he's brawling, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of a like using half of your DM here early is like if you see something particularly big that you want to eat, like you see a Junkrat mine, sure, and you did get a Junkrat mine, so like I'm not super annoyed or anything, but the general process of what you're doing puts you in a situation where you're generally going to be spending about half of your DM, and now you can only DM your Rhine for 1 second instead of 2 seconds of swinging. And he's not fully expecting full DM while he's swinging, but remember, you're on DVA, not Zarya, so this is the way that you can contribute to your Ryan's swing game, etc. Now, instead, you're probably going to end up going over after to pinch this Junkrat over here a little bit, but this is, just little micro thing that we're going to think about here. Okay, so
You'd
let's
think
keep
I'd
going.
get on the Junkrat, right?
Yeah, I
But that
would.
Ryan was so one. So
Okay,
yeah.
okay, but can you hurt that
Yeah.
Reinhardt?
But with boosters.
Okay. But now you're immediately going to turn around for the Junkrat that you know is behind you, right?
Yeah. Somewhat. Eventually. When Dan calls him out and kills him. That's when I turn around.
Okay, so not a big deal, but remember, in general, you want to deal with threats that are sort of inside your backline, have gotten in before you go forward to challenge new things. So you went for the Reinhardt here. Personally, I think that your Reinhardt was going to get that Reinhardt just fine, but I'm going to be okay with the fact that you did that, especially that you sort of booped him over here where it was a little harder for his supports to get line of sight to maintain him, guarantee the kill, but then we would want that turn to keep out the junk, to go, okay, let me deal with the Junkrat that now we sort of have a concave on. Okay.
Yeah, so we take an interesting approach on this map of just holding this corner instead of those doors down there.
Holding, like, right here where you are?
We hold here and inside White Room, and we play these angles. Usually, Ryan's where I'm at, and I'm where Ryan's supposed to be, but for some reason we did this way.
Okay, so this makes sense if you're playing against... Why? Let me rephrase this. Why would you usually hold... Why do you think you guys usually hold here? Why do you think you found success holding here, even if your tanks are usually flipped?
To be honest, not sure.
Yeah.
I remember somebody brought up the strategy that we should hold like this, so we've just been running it like this.
Sure. So where that
And I mean,
probably
we found more than enough of success, so I don't question it at this point.
Okay, that's fine. Where this probably evolved from is the fact that on this point, you see how you guys are running a Symmetra Junkrat, and that's pretty common on this.
Hmm.
So let's pretend that you were the blue and red tried to hold here. Your ability to TP past them and them to be slower, because if they're going to set up to hold this choke, they're going to spread up out to hold this choke, and then you could walk up and you could go quick stack, everyone TP, everyone through and get to point, and then you could build a nice little concave that they would have to run into, and they would be much slower than you to get the TP off because they're spread out defending, because that's how you defend a choke, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you're not holding this door, basically. You
So
could
this
hold
strat was just for Symmetra?
basically.
Uh,
You'd normally hold this point, and you guys are going, no, we're not going to straight hold the point. We're going to hold here. And as they start to get closer, we're going to back up so that we're going to back up. So, like, we're going to get a little early poke here, and as they push forward, we're going to back up 2 point and then still do our big concave, etc. Because, it's sort of like a kiting poke game, but we end up with the big concave, and as long as we kite a little bit, they can't we get to still tax them on the way in this way, and we're less worried about them TPing onto point, because if they're TPing onto point, they still have to stack for the TP, and while yes, they may be behind us, we still have a concave on them when we turn. It's not as good, but it's still valid. So that's probably why you guys set up like you did. I'm much less worried about this though, because they don't have a Symmetra. So you could pretty hard hold this choke, and if they go another way to try to rotate to point, it's not like they're going to beat you. You should notice if they go the other way and still be able to get back in time, right?
yeah. Yeah, never thought it through.
All good. All
We
good.
got into strat and then I've just accepted it.
All good. So since you're IGOing, you can recognize there's not a Symmetra. We can potentially hold this choke, because you know how chokes work. Chokes are hard for Reinhardt to break when you have a Reinhardt, and they have a Reinhardt. They're not going to like trying to break your choke if your Reinhardt is holding it, and it's going to give you this nice little narrow choke to just bounce a bunch of Junkrat nades and Sim turrets down, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so that's a little adjustment you can probably make to upgrade this when there's specifically not a Sim there. And if they make the Sim swap, you pull back to where you are now.
Gotcha.
Hmm. So you're backing your way out. Okay, I do like that you go over here to check this, because this is more what you need to do now that they're pushing this way. You have Ryan covering that corner. You need to make sure he doesn't get wrapped around over here. Okay, oh, well, he wants to be here with you. Okay. Your DM is getting a little random. Like, you're sort of DMing on rhythms rather than DMing for things here. You see that? I can re-show you, but here you are. Okay, I don't know why you're DMing that. You get a nade here, and that's okay, I guess. And then you see what I'm saying, where it's sort of like you're sort of being rhythmic about your DM. I don't think you started your DM for these micro missiles. I'm pretty sure you started your DM before these micro missiles. So like you do want to be looking for, thinking about, and you can try to be a little predictive, but you will get better if you're actively trying to pay attention and react to those are micro missiles. Those are a Junkrat mine. That's a sleep dart. That's a flashbang. Like trying to actively react to it in a lot of these situations. Now, there's other situations where you absolutely just DM over the McCree, over the Junkrat, because he has to mine. You're in the Junkrat's face, literally in the Junkrat's face. The Junkrat has to mine to create distance between you and him, or he'll explode. And if he has a mine, he's going to have to use it. You want to eat it, etc. But, okay.
This is actually a question that I've had from a previous VOD that we had.
Sure.
That I thought of over the time. Let's say Junkrat is like my primary eat.
Mm-hmm.
Do I just ignore everything else until the Junkrat uses mines?
No, you can still eat some nades. That's fine.
But
And
like,
yes, that might be a case of he's going to then be like, okay, I just never mind, etc. Or hey, you eat some nades, and then as a result, he throws the mine after he nades. But that is just going to be a calculation on your part of what sort of the maximum time, excuse me, what's the maximum time that I can keep this Junkrat not relevant? Because the mine isn't that dangerous to you. You have lots of health, and he's not that precise of a hero outside of his mind. So, like, some of it is going to be okay, I'm not worried about this. Some of it is going to be okay, I'll get multiple of the nades here. But really, what you want to be trying to do is doing I'm going to eat a mine and a nade at the same time, and I'm going to let most of the rest through. But no, it is not a hard case if I just will not use DM against Junkrat until he mines.
yeah, because I've had like a situation where it was a Ash Orisa,
Hmm.
and I was so focused on the dynamite that I let the poles go past me
Oh yeah,
way
well
too much.
actually halt is really really important, and you'll take either one of them. Like that's the sort of thing where you have to think of it as yes, eating one potentially lets the other through and that's bad, but you can also think of this from a perspective of hey, you could go I'm going to eat the first one and then just hard tunnel my DM for the next 2 seconds afterwards because you're still accomplishing this thing of and it's going to depend. Like, there's not a specific right answer there. I probably wouldn't do that in that case because I don't expect her to just have the option if you eat a halt to be like, well, I can TNT whenever and it'll be a reasonable TNT because that's not necessarily true. But if you were worried about that, or if it was a case of like, I need to eat Blizzard and Grav, and you ate Blizzard, and then you were worried Grav was going to come out while your DM was, locked out, you could just go,
Hmm.
I ate Blizzard, and now I'm going to hard DM Zarya for these next 2 seconds while my team tries to get enough ahead in this fight that that it doesn't make sense to commit Grav anymore. Or if they commit Grav, it's not going to matter. We're still going to win. Now, that requires your team taking advantage of the fact that you're DMing, and that's usually going to require either they're hard calling something that they have, or you're hard calling the Zarya for them to blow up, something along those lines. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying.
Okay. It can be tough, I know, and it's not like, oh, this is the perfect answer for DM use in all situations. I'm just giving an example. Most of the time, you are going to try to go, I'm going to try to eat the halt. I'm going to try to eat the TNT. I ate the halt, then the TNT came through. Well, at least the TNT didn't get thrown into a clump of my friends that got halted, so still value. You're,
Hmm.
you're making it enough harder for all of them that it's still good, even if you don't get everything.
Yeah, I'd rather just go back to eating ults. Forget about abilities. Let me just eat grabs.
No, no, we're going to level you up. We are. Hmm. Okay.
Somehow get back to full health.
Yeah, that's as much as you need. Okay. Right idea, sort of. But let's look at this. Your Reinhardt has made it clear that your team's solution to this window is they're going to advance to where he is, right?
Yeah.
So what are you doing just sort of standing there and dancing?
Well, I still had people behind me.
Right, but your DM is what's protecting them, right?
Hmm.
If you advance, does that make your DM protect them less?
I mean, no, but I was making sure I used like the full cost of because I knew I would be able to still make it if I danced a little bit. So I made sure to use full DM just to make sure anyone behind me
You're going
doesn't
to
get
be
hit by it.
better off going up here and then just rotating your DM this way to protect them. You follow what I'm saying? So, like, you go here and then you rotate your DM this way to protect them. So, you've got your DM up the whole time and you go here and you rotate to protect them because that at least gives you the option of what if something more important happens? Like, I don't know, a Reaper shows up in your Reinhardt's gut. Well, I would like to be able to swing and do that, and I can't do that from here type thing. Like you get hacked. Like let's say you're advancing here and you get hacked. Now these heroes aren't on the board, and I get that these heroes aren't on the board. I'm using them as examples. Like
Yeah,
I could
yeah, I
do this
understand.
with other things, but this becomes a case of, hey, should go here. There's very little reason for you to dance, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you had a teammate who went, oh well, I'm advancing behind my diva because my diva's my shield, and well, okay, you in that case definitely don't want to be in this situation of your teammates waiting for you to advance because you've gone through here with less DM usage if your teammates or one of them was waiting on you.
Got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Reality bends to my will.
Yeah, that can't be the answer. You know that.
The micros. I saw it
Let me
too.
just micro randomly hoping to find the tire. No. This you can micro after you found the tire, but that's not a thing.
I was really
Okay.
hoping I predicted it.
Yeah, the tire or the flash?
Yeah, the tire. The
Okay.
tire.
Time to read my APM.
Okay. So there's a bit of a timing thing here. After you've been hit up into the air, it's sort of unlikely that the next thing's going to hit you, right? Because unless he spends his second mine, the nade is sort of like, it's going to be hard to hit you with a nade here, right? Like he could, in theory, go, I'm going to aim it high enough, I'm going to get it just right. But you're actually pretty hard to hit with a nade when you're in the air as opposed to on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you actually don't want to be using your DM quite yet. You want to be shooting at him now, and when you get closer to the ground, you want to be DMing.
Down.
Okay.
I've
You
learned
saw
from
what
that.
happened there.
I learned from that mistake. Don't worry. You'll see
Okay.
it come up the next time I hit it.
Good. Why? Okay, you've already taken a risk there that you didn't have to. Now you're out opening the angle while you're reloading. Why are you out here as opposed to just, like, I'm shooting BAP from here? Like, you went out here to shoot this way where the BAP had a crossfire on you. Then you're like, oh no, I'm going to fight the BAP. And you're doing it in the open when, like, you know, this is an FPS. We have cover. D.Va has to get close to things to fight people, but Baby D.Va is a more standard FPS hero where it's just like, hey, I'm just going to use the cover and I'm going to shoot at BAP over here. And if BAP pays too much attention to me, I'll close the angle while Lucio distracts him, and then I'll open the angle and fire again because Lucio is distracting him. Like you don't want to risk your life here. BAP can take you down pretty darn fast.
I'm built different on Baby Diva.
Ah.
Suiting up. Defense matrix activated.
What are you protecting your Reinhardt from right now with this DM?
Junk.
Yeah, you are. Sorry, I was thinking that was your junk. My bad. The colors confuse me. It's all good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, you ate him that time. Yeah.
We learned from our mistakes.
Where's your Reinhardt holding? Up there. Okay, this is fine then.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Is your team holding? Quite reasonably. Good.
time to raise my
Okay.
APM. Nerf this.
Yeah, okay. I don't love this personally.
Time to raise my
This is
APM.
good. But you're doing the same thing where I can tell you're keeping yourself in this, like, I'm going to stay here as opposed to tucking in here while keeping my DM swung out type thing, which, you you should absolutely do, but you do drain your DM all the way for the window and then send the self-destruct. Probably would have tried to not eject forward here, like would have ejected more to a side to try to get cover faster, but here we go.
Game on. Routing power to forward shield. Hiya. Defense matrix activated.
Man,
Okay.
I wanted to run down that
I know you
diva.
did. Oh, the
the-
diva?
Yeah, the diva there. 'Cause
Yeah,
the diva's
that's
completely split out.
that's fine. Is your Lucio with you? No.
Our Lucio's taking an aggressive angle on the Rhine.
Let me think for a second. Yeah, you could do this. You could absolutely do this. You could absolutely run at this diva. So what happened here, especially during this split, you could absolutely run at this diva. So here they are. You could absolutely right now
best
just
part
push
is
the
she used-
diva.
Yeah, she used boosters too, which I really wanted, but I couldn't get the team to follow up on.
Oh, you absolutely should
And
have called it then.
comms.
That shouldn't. Oh, got it. Okay. Then that just becomes like that would be a hard commit diva, push diva, and you just shout it aggressively, assertively, etc. And the team should absolutely be willing to do that. And that might not be in the team's playbook, but like it's absolutely a thing to push off angling heroes, and especially to push off angling heroes when they don't have their mobility cooldowns, and especially to push off angling heroes when the core is rotating in such a way that they can't contribute. Like this team, Reinhardt is probably 2 seconds from contributing, and these guys are probably like 3 or 5 seconds from contributing. So like this is absolutely a hard scream the diva, push the diva. That's totally fine. Even if you don't get her, you just have to understand where you're going after you do or don't get her. Like if she does get out or whatever, okay, that's fine. We're gonna pull back up into here, and maybe we're gonna rotate back into here. Or if we can run her down, that's fine too. So that's unfortunate that the couldn't get the team on board. Do you guys have? I mean, who is the? Are you are the fight planner though, right? Or like who calls mid fight rotations? Is that Basher's job?
Uh, yeah, Basher basically calls rotations.
Okay.
And semi like on targets, and I call targets as well, and like ult track, fight plan, all that shit.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that was a legit call on your part. If Basher just wouldn't make the rotation, it's unfortunate. You do have the right idea to be on these off-angle targets. Where we going? Okay.
Else, I don't know.
What's that?
The booster was something else.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. I'm worried about these, but I'm hoping you'll turn and deal with them as appropriate. No, you're not. Okay, so these guys showed up on you, and they showed up on you. Like, you are kind of the off-angle responsibility for, even if this was a different map, this would be a McCree that would show up here, right? Instead, it's Junkrat, but it's the same difference. It's your job to go tackle that. You aren't making your own, play onto a McCree or Junkrat or whatever over here, maybe paired with your Lucio right now. So if you're not doing that...
Sorry, go on the outside really quick where the Kree is.
Sure. What about him?
Lucio, right on the edge.
Oh, yeah. Well, your Lucio can do this.
He got there.
This is a thing. He could do this. Now, he needs to get his way back up here to try to make his play, but Lucio's going for the backline is a thing in this. It's more a thing against teams that are playing... Usually you do this more against teams that are actually trying to rush you down a bit as opposed to teams that are being super passive. That is not a hard rule, but you find the teams that are trying to rush you down will babysit their backline a little less, whereas teams that are playing slow have more resources to convert to dealing with the Lucio. But this is a play you can make, and you can go with him when he makes this play. Regardless, your play right now is to go, wait, I know that I lost my Junkrat over here. I know that there's a Diva over here. I know that I lost my Junkrat to a Junkrat over here, so I know these two are going to come from this general direction of the map.
Mm-hmm.
So you've just got to have more awareness set over here. They can't get the jump on you, which they effectively do here.
Yeah, I kind of end up ignoring. I know, I realize I shouldn't now, but
Yeah.
like I kind of end up ignoring the junk, and I end up playing up the free
Time
instead.
to raise my APM.
Right, and that's cool and all, but the Kree doesn't have the most dangerous angle on your team, right? You know the Junk and the Diva have the more dangerous angle on your team, and you want to deal with the threat that's on the most dangerous angle. That should sort of be your mental priority. And yeah, you guys are taking junk damage. That shouldn't be happening. Broken the lamp. Now you're going to use the sim wall. Almost. Did you use DM early? Did you just not have enough? No, you have plenty
No,
of DM.
Didn't do it right at all.
Yeah. Okay, just didn't DM for this at all. Yep.
And
Okay.
I have 300 health.
Ooh.
That's okay. Final form is Baby Diva.
I hear ya.
All systems check out.
Okay, so obviously in that last fight, you want to make sure you are tracking those off-angle threats better. You understand your job as Diva is to be more aware of the off-angles. I would like when you're advancing, when you're just DMing for your team to do stuff, that you still slide yourself behind cover and just fan your DM out, that you still slide behind cover and you fan your DM out. We talked about defensively what this should look like a bit more. We have continued on the ability train for Junkrat Mines, for flashbangs, etc. Those are kind of the things that I saw here that I went, yeah, these are jumping out at me a bit. Any other questions, either general, specific, maybe, anything else related to this map?
I mostly just wanted, obviously wanted like ideas on the Diva, but I
Sure.
wasn't expecting much change from the last VOD review.
Sure.
I
I
just
mean,
mostly wanted an idea of like the positioning, which you gave me with with the sim TP thing.
yeah, so there's the sim
And
TP thing, and then there's the just making sure that you and Reinhardt are sort of starting in a little different places, where it's like if Reinhardt's enforcing this and you're enforcing this, great. If he's enforcing this, you're enforcing more of this, and you're doing that so that you can make sure you can answer the off angles that are coming through. And it's not like you can't cast your DM on him from here. Cool. And for your retakes, you guys know what you're mostly doing for your retakes. You obviously have sim real TPs or fake TPs that you can do. You went down here and okay, that's fine. I mean, you can go through here. You can go multiple ways. You have the TP there, and you can also, of course, go, hey, I'm Diva. I'm going to threaten the off angle, etc. if you want, but that becomes, that becomes a, well, what can you threaten over here again? Like you and Lucio could go, well, who can we find? Can we find the McCree? And you might do that as your team pushes. But hey,
one last question. So
of course.
first fight in White Room,
Mm-hmm.
um, should I play a little more passive? Because you saw I liked boost straight in, and so I used half a DM for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Should I have boost just enough to be on par with my Reinhardt?
Um,
Or
Basically,
was my
yeah. I was basically saying I
okay?
didn't want you ahead of your Reinhardt because I want your Rein shield to be able to. I don't care if you call who the enemies are or someone else does. That's not something that only you're able to do. So, like, if your Reinhardt is in front, your Reinhardt can be using his shield, and I'd rather he use his shield than you use your DM, unless your DM is going to get a ton of value shield protecting. Like, oh, there's a stupid amount of burst coming, like Junkrat Mines, fan the hammer, etc. Like those,
Hmm.
sure, you can DM them. But for general spam, when the Rhine Shield still has a lot of health, I'd rather absorb it on the Rhine Shield because that way you have more DM to selectively eat things later or to protect your Rhine while he's swinging, which you're very likely to want to do in that first engagement. Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, a lot of fights come down to that very first one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
No problem. Okay. Best of luck to you, man.